I'm not hearing anything.
Hello? I'm not hearing anything either. Is the soundboard on?
Figured it out.
Just about lost an eardrum.
Yeah. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Team Morale Podcast. We do our three favorite things, talk a little bit of booze, a little bit of beer, and a whole lot of basketball. Ian the Tall Guy, back with you again for yet another episode. Mitch, welcome back.
Oh, I know. And then we've got so many great things going on. Not only is it the very first day of the basketball season, but you have a puppy. You got a puppo.
Wow, that is how we're opening the podcast.
Yeah,
today.
that's how we're opening the podcast. Puppos deserve the credit.
Yes, I guess so. Yes, my girlfriend and I got a dog over the weekend. His name is Marlin, and he is an 8-week-old dog. I think I don't know what type of dog it is, but he's an 8-week-old dog. It's a King Charles Cavalier. It had like 4 names.
And it's cute as a button.
I'm not the biggest dog guy in the world. My girlfriend has been asking me for a dog for a long time. I have fought tooth and nail against it for a better part of a year now, and I finally my fight ended in vain as Marlin came into the apartment.
Yes, but you got the 3 TV setup.
Yes, I do. For those who know me, our living room does have 3 TVs, which leads to a little bit of a Buffalo Wild Wings atmosphere. And with that, I ended up caving and getting a dog, and his name is Marlin. He is adorable. He's doing very well. He's potty trained, which is pretty impressive.
That's a good
for
start.
An 8-week-old.
That's a very good start.
And he is currently sleeping.
I'm still trying to figure that part out.
Potty training.
Yeah, it's tough. It's harder than it looks, okay? Don't hate.
But yes, he is cute as a button. He is sleeping. I'm sure Mac, who runs our Instagram, would, if the outcry is there, would not be upset if she had to post pictures of our cute dog for people to see. So fans, if you're interested in meeting Marlin, again, our 8-week-old King Charles Cavalier Cocker Spaniel something, yeah, reach out to us on our socials. I'm sure Mac would love nothing more than to share that with everybody.
And we're in a little bit of a different setup today because the puppy is sequestered in the room that we usually do our podcasting in.
Yeah, the dog is taking over the podcast room for the next
little bit.
Future.
Yes. And we are recording this pretty late at night because we just finished watching the first couple of games. We have officially tipped off, and we just got to see the Warriors play the Lakers and the Nets play the Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of got taken over by Dog Talk, but the NBA is back.
I transitioned.
Yeah, the NBA is here.
Yes.
We are. The long wait is over, ladies and gentlemen. We do not have to sit through mindless, mind-numbing watching paint dry, which is baseball. We don't have to wait a week between games like we do with football. We have sports happening every night, and we care about them. The NBA is back
every single night. Oh, love it. So both the games just finished, or I guess the Lakers Warriors game just finished. Bucks Nets finished earlier. What do you think was the biggest surprise for you out of the 2 games?
Yeah. So before we get into that, I do want to say that tonight's podcast is a little bit more free flowing. We don't really have much of a thing that we're going to talk about. We're going to just kind of chat about these games, just kind of break them down a little bit, not super X's and O'sies, but just kind of talk about our findings of the game. We watched both of them. And then on the next part of the second half of the podcast, we're going to talk about some big topics in the NBA that we will get into later.
But before we do, I almost jumped myself.
I know.
Earlier.
That's why
there's a good transition there.
Before you did.
We're figuring this out. But before we do, we're going to talk about the beer of the night. The beer of the night is Siren Rock Brewing Company. Oh, it's a great sound. The Tilted Traveler Oktoberfest Marzen Style Lager. So the story behind this is we were at our local tap house and they were hosting a trivia night or a bingo night that was that was like being sponsored by a local brewery. That local brewery was Siren Rock Brewing. Ed Pham what does he do there? He's the VP of sales over at Siren Rock, and he came up and we talked to him. We told him about we have a podcast. He actually mentioned that he might want to have us at the brewery to do a live podcast from there. So we're talking to him. Might do something like that, but he gave us a couple of free beers.
Yeah, let us know if you're interested in us doing that, doing like a live kind of podcast. There are avenues to doing like live podcast, and we have explored them a little bit, but the idea of doing one live at a brewery, let us know if that's something that interests you guys for sure.
Yeah. And so he gave us a couple of free beers, and we are trying them out tonight. And here's what they're a pretty new brewery. They were just kind of established in 2017. I'm going to read off what is basically their mission statement from their website, if you're interested. The evolution of Siren Rock. In 2017, we set out with a mission to create a true destination brewery carved from the image of Napa Valley, mixed with European authenticity and paired with our love of incredible craft beer. We envisioned something brightly lit and colorful that would resonate across all demographics. After many sleepless nights and countless scraps of crumpled notepaper, Siren Rock Brewing Company was born. For us, the siren represents a beautiful creature perched on a rock, calling out to the people of all characters to come and try our alluring, enchanting, and irresistible handcrafted beers. So, they're new. They're 2017. They're trying to get their name out there right now, and this is the first time I've drinking it outside of when we were at the tap house.
Yeah, and it's a good beer. We'll break down tastes as we always do a little bit later. But shout out to Ed. He was a very nice guy. Like Mitch said, approached us. We were at the Second Tap, which you guys have heard before, the local tap house right by where we live. It's a great place to get craft brew. If you live or anywhere near the Dallas area, definitely check it out. It's in the farmers market. Super cool atmosphere, super good beers, super cool place to hang out. But anyways, he was there promoting his beer, approached us. We told him what we do. And he was all about the idea of us doing a collab. So we're shouting him out, and then eventually we will do a collab with him at some point, which will be really fun if that's something you guys want us to do and are backing, because honestly, we won't do it if you guys don't want us to.
What if I just want to do it? I want to go to a brewery.
Well, then go to a brewery.
I want to go to a brewery and I want to record some stuff. That's what I want to do.
Sounds creepy.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, depends on what we're recording, I'm going to move into basketball talk.
All right.
Are you ready?
Let's move into basketball talk.
So I'm going to start off with the Nets-Bucks game, the first game of the evening. Now, in total honesty, Ethan and I were working together earlier tonight, and we were kind of
working the Stars game.
Yeah, we're working the Dallas Stars game tonight.
One in a shootout. Go Stars.
Go Stars. We had like one eye on work, and we had one eye on the game going on, and we're following the game, and it just kind of looked like the Bucks just kind of held the lead the entire time.
Yeah, the Bucks came out and took care of business. I mean, there's no way around that. I mean, a commanding win by, I'm trying to figure out how much they won by. Actually, it was
like 20 something.
But I mean, and Giannis just was amazing.
So Giannis did what Giannis does. He bowled. This was their championship ring ceremony night. So not only did they put a whopping on the Nets, but the Nets had to sit there and watch them get their rings also, which if you haven't seen those rings, you should look it up on YouTube. Those rings are dope. They like actually turn into like a little necklace and stuff now too.
Yeah, I got the box score here now. So 23-point win. Giannis ending with 32 points, 14 rebounds, and 7 assists with a steal and 2 blocks. 1 for 4 from 3, 12 from 25 from the field. So an efficient night in 31 minutes. Just some other notables from the game. Chris Middleton had 20 points, 9 rebounds. Off the bench, Nuara played really well for them. And Pat Connaughton had 20 points, 4 from 9 from 3 from them. On the net side of things, KD had 32 and 11. James Harden had 28 and 8. And off the bench, Patty Mills, scorching 7 from 7 from 3 for 21 points. But outside of that, no one really did much for the Nets. Nick Claxton chipped in 12, but that was the only other player in double figures. And wow, I'm looking at this. Patty Mills had 21 off the bench. The next highest score off the bench had 2 points.
2 points? I see 1 point.
Cam Thomas came in and had 2 points
Oh, Cam Thomas had
in garbage time.
He must have had.
So
he had 2 free throws.
They had 25 off the bench, 21 of them from Patty Mills.
Yeah. So the thing that I take away from this is obviously it's the first game, right? We are currently sitting inside of overreaction season, which is every little thing that happens here at the beginning of the season is going to be overlooked, overanalyzed, overreacted to. And my first overreaction is going to be that the Nets got a lot of new people. I think that they have a similar issue to like the Lakers, a lot of new people, a lot of new faces. They kind of got to figure out this rotation. What's it going to look like? But they don't have a lot of defensive bigs. Like, who are you tossing on to Giannis to stop Giannis? Or is Giannis just reaching a whole new level that no one can really stop him?
Yeah, I mean, Giannis was incredible. He was the best player on the court tonight, and it showed. And his jumper looks sneakily fluid compared to years past.
Mm-hmm.
It looks. I saw a side-by-side comparison, and it was him and Chris Middleton's jumper.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look that far off. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be as good of a shooter as Chris Middleton is, but I'm saying the guy's clearly gone and noticed a hole in his game and has gone to work on it because his jumper looks better. I mean, 1 for 4, still not great. I'm not saying he's going to be a league average 3-point shooter. What I am saying is he's going to get to the point where you're going to have to guard him and put a hand up. And if the moment you have to go outside the paint when you guard Giannis, you're hosed. It's over. Because he's got the quickest first step. He's strong. He's lengthy. He's got, he's Giannis. But you add a jumper to that, it's all over. Now, that being said, I do agree with you. It is early. It is very early in the season. Obviously, 1 game in. If I'm a Nets fan, I'm not even worried.
You're not stressing yet?
Not even a little bit. I'm stressing about the Kyrie situation, but not about this game. Because I have this guy named Kevin Durant on my team who's really fucking good at basketball. And I'm not worried about the fact that we got blown out in game 1, because I know that if we ever ran into this team in a playoff situation, Kevin Durant's going to actually step up and play defense on Giannis, as opposed to in the regular season where he's like, nah, he can get by me. I'm going to go back and I'm going to try to shoot a 3.
Yeah. If there was a cause for concern, what I see is obviously there's the Kyrie Irving situation, but outside of that, this team is fully healthy. You have all of your pieces. You have LaMarcus, you have Paul Millsap, Bruce Brown didn't even see time until the end of the game. Same with Cam Thomas. Javon Carter didn't play well. James Johnson didn't play well. Patty Mills did, but Blake Griffin didn't have a good showing. Joe Harris didn't have a good showing. But the Bucks did not have Semi Ojeleye, Rodney Hood, Bobby Portis, or Dante DiVincenzo. You could make an argument that all 4 of those guys could potentially be rotation dudes for them. And they still whooped you. Like, you should have been taking advantage during the bench times, and you were not. So if there was cause for concern, it's the fact that you were basically healthy without, sans Kyrie, and the Bucks were not healthy, did not have a lot of the rotation pieces, and they still just like walloped on you.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a good point. I mean, you were healthy, they were not. I agree with you there, but I just, it's so early.
It is. It's early.
I'm not stressing about a single game. I'm not stressing that we had a rough shooting night. I mean, they shot 44% from the field and honestly shot pretty well from 3, 53%. But I mean, they only made 17. They didn't shoot a lot of threes, only 32. And it just, their offense just seems like they were feeling themselves out. Yeah. Everything about them was just kind of like, all right, let's ease into this. Whereas the Bucks, this is the same team they had last year, right? And they just kind of did what they do. They went out, they were physical, they were big, they were overpowering, they made timely threes. They only shot 37% from 3, but they made timely threes. They shot well from inside the field. They kind of hustled. They won the 50-50 balls. And so the Nets were kind of easing their way into the season, where the Bucks kind of went out and just went balls to the wall.
Yeah. Which I'm interested to see how the Bucks are going to do throughout this regular season for a couple of reasons. One is there's the notorious championship hangover, which it didn't look like they had a lot of tonight, but that could be a thing for them going throughout the rest of their season. And they added a lot of different rotation pieces to this team. Like, What I am really pleased with is guys like Pat Connaughton and Jordan Nwora and Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen stepped into the starting lineup. He shot 3 for 10. All of those shots were from 3, but he played really solid defense, 6 assists, 4 boards. Like, he played real good. Pat Connaughton, 20 points, balled out, shooting with absolute confidence out there right now.
8 for 13 too, which is an efficient 20 points.
And then Jordan Nwora, I think, is a key piece to potentially unlocking a whole nother side to this Bucks team, because he is a great isolation scorer. They haven't really had a great isolation scorer, especially off the bench. They've kind of just run everything through Giannis, and then hopefully through ball movement on the bench, it would get through. But now you got a guy like Jordan Nwora, who people thought coming out of Louisville last year was a steal in the draft anyways, could go out and be a great ISO scorer. And tonight he showed a lot of those flashes.
Yeah, he was incredible tonight. I mean, he was great in the isolation. He played good defense. He hustled. He didn't look like a guy playing in like his first, not real NBA game, but getting his first real minutes in an NBA game.
Yeah,
he looked decently polished. Another thing just worth noting here, the Bucks out rebounded the Nets by 10. I mean, just demolished them on the boards.
No big men.
They shot 21 more shots. The Nets were 37 for 84 in total field goals. The Bucks were 48 for 105.
Wow. That's good defense. A lot of steals,
good
offensive
defense,
rebounds.
Good defense. The Bucks had 13 offensive rebounds. The Nets had 5.
Wow. It's a big difference.
A big difference in the offensive board. So, yeah, I guess if there is something to overreact to be nervous about, if I'm a Nets fan, I'm worried about my big man rotation. Is Nick Claxton, Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin, Paul Millsap, and LaMarcus Aldridge enough?
Because there's not, I mean, outside of Claxton, there's not like a true center on that list.
Yeah, because I mean, Blake Griffin, I would say, is more of a power forward. LaMarcus Aldridge kind of played center at the end of his career, but has been
he's always wanted to be a power forward. Yeah.
Paul Millsap is really a 3-4.
Yep.
He plays 5, but he's really a 3-4. James Johnson, kind of the same thing, and same with Kevin Durant. So you really have one true center, and if you want to call Nick Claxton a true center. I mean, he is 6'11", but it's not necessarily like a big 6'11". You know?
Exactly.
But he's probably the tallest guy on your team, maybe outside of Kevin Durant.
Exactly. So I think that we've kind of exhausted this game, Melissa. If you have any other notes that you want to talk about the Bucks Nets?
No. I mean, again, the Bucks, you came out, you took care of business. Giannis looked good. You guys were shorthanded in your role player department, and you guys came out and took care of business. That being said, if I'm a Bucks fan, I'm a little worried. Like, just relax.
Yeah.
Let's get to the playoffs. We don't need to burn out. If I'm a Bucks fan, that's my big thing. Like, we don't need to win 100 games. We just need to relax, get through the playoffs or get through the regular season, get to the playoffs, and then we can go balls to the wall like this. And again, if I'm the Nets fan, I'm worried about my big man rotation a little bit, but again, we didn't try as hard as the Bucks today.
Yeah.
And that's why we lost.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
And the interesting thing with the Bucks, like kind of that you noted, is last year that was their whole premise, was they're going to use the regular season as a way to try out a lot of different schemes so they can be best come playoffs. And last year they were a 3 seed going in. You know, the Nets and the Sixers were 1 and 2, or Sixers 1, Nets 2. Bucks were 3. I think that they'll probably have the same approach. I think they really went balls to the wall because it was their ring night. They wanted to show that they were better than the Nets. And I think that was kind of the biggest thing for the Bucks. But I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about this late game that happened tonight, which was the Golden State Warriors taking on the Los Angeles Lakers in a kind of a shootout. Not really. It was
a little ugly.
Yeah, both teams didn't necessarily look the sharpest. The Golden State Warriors ended up winning 121-114, so a 7-point victory for them in kind of surprising fashion. The Lakers, you got what you thought you were going to get.
Yeah.
LeBron played great. The Anthony Davis played great. Everyone else really, really struggled.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of expected this going in. The thing that the Lakers are going to struggle with the most for the rest of this year is going to be what are we? What is this rotation? Who is my go-to bench guys? What is Russell Westbrook's role around LeBron and around Anthony Davis. What is Melo going to be doing? How do we fit? Is Dwight Howard going to be a bench guy or a starter guy? Once we get like they had some DNPs tonight, like Ariza, Taylor Horton Tucker, Wayne Ellington, Kendrick Nunn. Where do they fit into our rotation? It's almost like they have an embarrassment of riches right now, and it's how do we get everything to fit? Because it was very, very clunky tonight.
Yeah, no one could really get in the rhythm of the Los Angeles Lakers because again, I think you're right. Other than LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook, no one else really knows what their role is on this team just yet. Everyone's still trying to figure out how many minutes are they going to get in a night? How many are they a starter? Are they a bench player? Are they, what is my role if I'm coming off the bench? Is my role to spot up, shoot threes, and play defense, or is my role to be a little bit more creator?
I know Westbrook's role is to go 4 for 13 from the field every single night.
Yeah, that was. He had a rough game. I'm running through the box score here. LeBron had 34, 11, and 5. Anthony Davis had 34 and 11 with 2 blocks. And then no one else had more than 10.
Nope.
Carmelo Anthony was next closest with 9 points. Russell Westbrook had 8, 5 and 4, and a brutal game with 4 turnovers, a minus 23 on the night, which is just brutal. In a game you lose by 7, he was a minus 23. The next closest, like the next worst plus minus was Malik Monk at minus 10.
Yeah, dude.
He had a brutal night. And it seemed like he was trying to do a mixture of 2 things. He was trying to be his normal Russell Westbrook self, but then he was also he looked like he was trying to play while not stepping on anyone's toes. He played very timid, and like that's not why they brought Russell Westbrook there. They brought Russell Westbrook there to be Russell Westbrook.
Yep.
And so, first off, only 13 shots. I mean, I'm surprised by that. He's going to have to shoot more, but again, he was playing like not afraid, but more like I don't want to overshoot and take bad shots to where like I'm taking away from these other players, which I think got in his head a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the whole Lakers team looked a lot like, I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes. No one looks super comfortable in that system right now outside of Davis and LeBron. So I'm not surprised that Anthony Davis and LeBron tonight were just like, okay, we're going to take over. If we're going to win this game, it's going to be because you and me. The Lakers have a bit of a curse where they can't win opening night games. I think it's the last 2 years. They've just been absolutely like destroyed by the Clippers the last 2 seasons or whatever it was. So they can't win in opening night games anyway. So tonight doesn't really mean anything. What, if anything, it's we saw symptoms of what could be potential cracks in the armor.
Yeah, and it's similar to what the Nets situation is, where it's like, I'm not worried if I'm a Laker fan, but I am noticing some things that I knew were going to be an issue that are cause for concern. And for this team, that's 3-point shooting. They shot 35% from 3 tonight, but that is a 5 from 11 from LeBron James, and no one else really shot all that well. Anthony Davis 1 for 5, Bazemore 2 for 8. Rondo 1 for 3, Westbrook 0 for 4. Melo and Malik Monk both went 2 for 4 apiece, and Avery Bradley shot okay. But it's just, I mean, you're relying on a lot of like meh 3-point shooters to really, really step up for you.
This has been my thing that I've been talking about all offseason, and I'm probably going to ring this bell a lot this year because I love talking shit about the Lakers in the first place. But this is what their problem is going to be. 3-point shooting. It is spacing. You do not have enough spacing on this team with LeBron, Westbrook, and Anthony Davis. LeBron needs to shoot like he did tonight all year.
45% from 3 tonight.
Yeah, if he shoots like he does from tonight all year, that is terrific. That is a great step towards the right direction. But if you have guys like Bazemore, I saw Bazemore up close and personal. He played for the Blazers. He was not as good of a shooter as what was really advertised when we first brought him in. 2 for 8 is lower than what he usually can do, but that is not totally off brand. And then you're relying on guys like Melo, Rondo, Monk, Bradley, who kind of can shoot, kind of can't. Like if they just go off on nights that like they get really, really hot or really, really cold, it's not surprising. This team needs to figure out their spacing problem because come playoffs, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, Carmelo Anthony, not a greatly reliable 3-point shooter. Malik Monk was great 2 years ago, really struggled last year, so you really don't know what you're getting out of him. Avery Bradley, more known for his defensive ability in his mid-range game than his 3-point shooting. So a lot of question marks here. Some good notes to take away. I mean, Bazemore outside of his 3-point shooting played pretty well tonight, played a lot of minutes, 30 minutes. I mean, the Lakers had 4 guys get over 30 minutes tonight with LeBron, AD, Westbrook, and Bazemore. Their big man rotation between Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, and DeAndre Jordan looked pretty good, imposing their will a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Avery Bradley, like I said, outside of his 3-point shooting, gave good minutes, and he only played 8 minutes, but they just picked him up, played some really good defense. Rondo looked polished, but again, not necessarily having his scoring touch, but looked all right on the offensive end in terms of initiating the offense. But overall, kind of a disappointing day for the Lakers. But again, you're not worried about the score. You're more trying to figure out what your rotation is looking like.
Yeah, I don't think you're worried that you're making the playoffs if you're the Lakers. I think, honestly, if I'm the Lakers, all I care about is being a top 4 seed. I would like to have home court advantage in the first round, and I kind of don't care after that. I'm going to move over to the Golden State Warriors. The most notable thing is Steph Curry did not play well. Steph Curry went 5 of 21.
Didn't play well and had a triple-double.
First triple-double since 2016.
Yes. So if you want to count that as not playing well, he did come out and say, quote, "I played like trash" after the game, but it was his first triple-double since 2016, but he was not happy with the way he shot the ball. 5 for 21, 23.8% on the night. But again, he did finish with 21 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, and 3 steals. So if that's your bad day,
it's not that bad.
You'll take it.
It's a good point. I mean, it's still Steph Curry. The fact that he can go out there and still make contributions in a lot of other ways. Like, I'm clearly not making shots, but I can go and sneak in for some rebounds, and I can get other people open and try to go and get some assists. It's exactly what he did. 21, 10, and 10. Really great night from him. Jordan Poole had 20 points. He is currently the Vegas odds-on favorite for most improved player going into the season, which is pretty interesting. That to me depends on whether or how early Clay comes back or not. But he showed that he has a lot of flashes. Wiggins played really great defense. Draymond Green played good defense, a 6-8-6 game. He's just not going to shoot a lot, so you're not bringing a lot. Do you have any Draymond thoughts?
His defense was good. His offense just leaves me wanting more. And it's not necessarily...
6 assists.
6, 8, and 6, but you're the second best player on this team.
Yes, but he has a role as the second best player. Like, he knows what he does, and he knows what he doesn't do.
He also had 5 turnovers tonight.
That's not great.
So
that's not great.
I'm left wanting more from my, quote, second best player. He's on a max. I need more than 6, 8, and 6 and 5 turnovers from a guy making that much money.
I totally agree.
In a win, so I can't hold it. And honestly, like, we need to say this statement win for the Warriors.
Big time. Game
1 coming out. You beat the Lakers in a all-around team game. No one played great.
Yeah.
Right? So all-around team game. No one played stupendous. No one played bad. But again, in the Draymond Green category, 6, 8, and 6, 5 turnovers. Again, I would say he played great defense, but again, he was guarding Anthony Davis most of the night, and Anthony Davis kind of cooked him. So great defense is with an asterisk. Again,
you love hating on Draymond, though.
I do, but I do. But I'm just saying, like, that's. I don't think this is bias coming out. 6, 8, and 6 with 5 turnovers is not a good night for Draymond Green. I think he'd say that.
The other thing I think to take note is you mentioned that the bigs dominated for the Lakers. The Warriors basically ran out Kevon Looney. They did have Draymond, but the other big, who is not a traditional big, but absolutely balled out in the fourth quarter and was a huge piece to the Warriors, like kind of extending and keeping their lead going into the fourth. Nemanja Bjelica.
Yeah, he was incredible, especially like you said in that fourth quarter, making shots. He actually was decent at creating.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple of times where he maybe didn't create for himself, but was found as a cutter and then kicked it back out for a wide open 3. He finished the night with 15 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. So a really good game for him. I will say a big talking point, a big note here. The Warriors seem to shore up their bench issues that they had a year ago.
Yeah, and we talked about this a lot last year where it felt like the starting core was not bad, but as soon as the bench came in, they were falling apart in all sorts of bad ways. They still don't have Wiseman and still don't have Thompson, which my guess would be is that kind of moves Moody and Juan Toscano Anderson out of the lineup at some point. And so your bench is going to be running out Jordan Poole, Bielitsa, Andre Iguodala, Otto Porter, and Looney, which is good.
And Damon Lee.
I don't know if he is a long-term bench guy for them. I think once they start narrowing it down to being a 10 man rotation and you bring back Wiggins or you bring back Wiseman and you bring back Thompson, I think Damian Lee and I think Juan Toscano Anderson are the two most likely to lose their slots. Damian Lee did play 29 minutes tonight though, which is a lot.
Yeah, he played a lot for them. Wiggins, again, played all right, 12 points, not 7 rebounds, nothing to write home about. But again, it was a good team win. You had, 5-6 guys score over 10 points in the night, which is right around where you want. You want between that 6 and 8 group. If you have more than that, you're a
lucky team if you're getting 8 guys in double digits. Yeah, that means you're deep.
So 6 is not bad. 2 20-point scorers. I mean, again, the Lakers only had 2.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. So this was a well-balanced, a team win. All in all, if I'm a Warriors fan, I'm over the moon that we won.
Yes.
Wins over are great. The moon that you beat LeBron again because Warrior fans hate LeBron. I'm cautiously optimistic. This team has the bones to be good here.
Yes.
Maybe not title contender until Clay comes back and then they figure stuff out. But this team looks like they can hold you afloat until Clay comes back, and then you can kind of go to the drawing board and see what we got.
Now, Chris Vernon of The Mismatch, another famous podcaster, he brought up the argument the other day, which was basically, why do we think the Warriors are championship contenders? Yes, their bench is shored up a little bit. Bielitsa, Iguodala, Otto Porter, Jordan Poole, those are solid pieces. But Klay Thompson still hasn't come back. We have no idea what he's going to look like when he actually plays. Steph Curry is still a year older. I mean, Steph Curry's great, but he is becoming a year older. Draymond is another year older. I think it's starting to wear on him more than anybody. This team may not be the championship contender team that we think it may be, and maybe it will be. Maybe they will be a team that's actually trying to go for a chip this year. Maybe they're a team that's fighting for the playoffs. We don't know, but from this first game, it was a very good start.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's take a break here. Let's talk about this beer. Let's revisit this. Let's talk taste a little bit. It is an Oktoberfest, which is kind of fun, but the Tilted Traveler Oktoberfest Marzen style lager, I think is how you say that.
Yes, Marzen. I'm not totally sure exactly what that means, but this is what it says on their can. It is a malt forward amber lager steeped in traditions steeped in traditions. What does steeped in traditions mean? Anyways,
you know, with a tea bag, you steep your tea bag like it's dipped in.
Oh. It's steeped in traditions for over 200 years, offering a toasted bready malt backbone, full body, and smooth, clean finish. What is your takes on this, Ethan?
It's good. I do get the breadiness. It's very much I don't want to say German style, but it's a little bit heavier. It's a little bit breadier. You do taste it. It is a fill you up kind of beer.
When you make an Oktoberfest beer, you want it to be very German style.
Yeah.
And it definitely has that German flavor to it. I like a lot of the branding that it has to it. The Tilted Traveler is a very good name going with the Oktoberfest. It is a heavier beer. I get the breadiness out of it.
It's a little nutty.
Yes.
A little nuttiness to it.
Yeah, a little nutmeg or whatever. There's some good flavors that are coming out of it. So because it's so new, you can't really find anywhere online that tells you the specific flavors you're supposed to be taking out of this. What I can say is I very much like it.
Yeah, it's very good. It's heavier.
For Definitely. Beers like this, I don't always like beers like this.
Yes, I'm not a big German beer guy.
Yeah.
And this is smoother. It's lighter for a German style beer, but that being said, it is still a rather heavy beer. Like I said, I get a lot of nuttiness to it, almost like a heaviness. But then it is very, very bready. This one fills you up very quick. You feel pretty bloated. You couldn't be chugging this thing.
Yeah, it's got a lot of wheat to it. It's got a lot of wheat to it. It's kind of almost like when you have a Hefeweizen or something like that. They have that heaviness to it. They have a lot of wheat in it. What are you going to rate this?
Ooh.
Have you thought about that? I got a number in mind.
I have not thought about that. It's a good beer. I don't necessarily love this style of beer generally. They do have several styles. He gave us a 6-pack, 2 of each can, and this was just happened to be at the front, so we started with this one.
I thought it was fun because it's October.
Oh, so
that's why I picked.
Did you put this one at the front?
Yeah, I grabbed these ones because it was like, oh, it's October, the Oktoberfest beer.
Oh, I just thought they were at the front. So anyways, so they have plenty of other flavors, so I'm definitely excited to try the rest of them. I think I'd give this one a 7.2.
7.2?
7.2.
That is fair. That is totally fair. I'm going to give this, I'm going to bump it up a couple points because it is typically a style of beer that I would be adverse to and I wouldn't like typically. But because I think they did this one really well, I'm going to bump it up a couple points. I'm going to say 7.9.
7.9.
7.9.
Yeah. It's like I said, I would not generally go out of my way to get an Oktoberfest style beer, but this one is actually pretty good. Like I'm definitely going to finish it, which is not something I would normally do with an Oktoberfest style beer.
Exactly. Oh, I'm going to be finishing this for sure. I wish we had more.
Yeah, it's definitely
a good one.
And shout out again to Ed and to
thank you, Eddie Pham.
Siren Rock Brewing is a great brewery. We are excited to potentially do a podcast there. Very excited to start our partnership and hopefully kind of collab with them in the future. Let's go back into the NBA here, talk a little bit about some of the just hot topics. And right now, there is no way that we could do an NBA podcast without talking about 2 players, being Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving. Neither are, well, I guess Ben Simmons kind of is with his team after today. He was kicked out of practice for not wanting to do a defensive drill and just not really caring. And so he got kicked out of practice. He was then suspended for the first game. So tension's all time high. He was called out by Joel Embiid, and then Ben Simmons then called out Joel Embiid, and so they're having a little cat fight over the media back and forth. And then the Kyrie situation, his unsureness, I guess is the best way to say it, about wanting to take the vaccine. He has said that he is not against the vaccine, but just doesn't want to make his decision yet, is leading to him not being able to play in the state of New York. And so he is not with the Brooklyn Nets and doesn't plan to report to them and can't really report to them, and the team doesn't need him to report to them. So that situation is very interesting. Mitch, and we're already, a little heavy on time here, but I'm going to phrase the question to you this way. Who do you think has it worse and why? The Philadelphia 76ers with their Ben Simmons situations or the Brooklyn Nets with their Kyrie Irving situation?
All right. I'm going to take a stance that I think is going to be a little like, I don't think a lot of people would typically think of this. Like, it's going to be the opposite angle from it. I'm going to say that the Nets are in a worse situation. And we are in the middle of the Ben Simmons crisis right now. Like, it feels really, really, really horrible right now for the Sixers. There was a million quotes that came out, some from Ben Simmons, some from Joel Embiid, some from Doc Rivers. And it just feels like the world is collapsing for the 76ers. It's kind of not. They still have Joel Embiid. They still have a lot of great pieces. They still have a really good GM, despite how he's handled this. He is a very good GM. They still have Doc Rivers, and they're going to get something for Ben Simmons. Whether it's an average starting point guard, whether it actually turns into multiple first-round picks, whatever it is, they're going to move on from this. And I think the 76ers are still going to be a good basketball team for this. Obviously, they have championship hopes, but at the very minimum, they're still going to be a top 4 seed in the East, which I think is where their expectations kind of are. Now, the Nets, this is an ongoing problem with Kyrie. Kyrie came out and he was basically like, I'm not necessarily against the vaccine, but what I am trying to do is promote the idea that people shouldn't be losing their jobs just because they don't have the vaccine. I don't necessarily hate that logic, but it feels like with Kyrie, it's one thing after another thing, after another thing, after another thing that just makes him not show up, not play, or he's actually injury prone and he's hurt. And they have one thought in mind, and that is to win a championship, and he could cost them that.
Yeah, and we're not here to weigh in on whether or not the vaccine's good or bad. That's not our place. That's not our podcast.
Yeah.
So let's put that out there right now. What we are here to weigh on it is how it affects teams and how it affects players and how this affects the NBA. And it seems like this Kyrie situation isn't necessarily a vaccine problem or isn't necessarily a COVID problem, but more of like Kyrie has done this before.
Yeah.
He's disappeared. Like I was listening to Stephen A. Smith this morning on the radio, and he had a very interesting point. Kyrie had 10 months off of basketball. Because of the COVID break, he had 10 months off.
Yeah.
Because of his injury, didn't go to the bubble, had 10 months off. Came back, played 2 weeks, had to disappear because he needed a break.
Yeah.
How many people in the world can take 10 months off of their job, come back for 2 weeks, and disappear for 3 of them because he needs a break?
Exactly.
And so that's the point we're making. That's the point that I believe you're trying to make, and that a lot of people also have made, is like Kyrie just doesn't look like basketball is his priority. And Kevin Durant and James Harden have both come out several times, and they're not talking about Kyrie, but they're saying that they are here to win a championship.
Yes.
That is what they are here to do. Kyrie might not be here to win a championship. He might be here to do other things, and basketball just is kind of something he does in his spare time type of thing.
Kyrie feels like he's using basketball as a platform to make statements in other facets of life, whether it's good or bad. It's just that is kind of that's the angle he's using for
which,
it, right?
Again, might not be a bad thing. That's not what we're trying to say here. What we're trying to say is that is getting in the way of the Nets winning a championship.
Exactly, which is the singular goal if you're the Brooklyn Nets. Like, second place is not good enough.
If he was doing this on some random team that wasn't like a championship contender, I don't think anyone would care.
Yeah, it'd be like, all right, Kyrie's doing his thing.
Hey, you do you, man. But I mean, imagine being Kevin Durant. Kyrie,
who's gone to bat for him time after time.
But the only reason he's on the Nets is because Kyrie was like, hey, you want to team up on the Nets?
Yeah.
And now Kyrie didn't play very much last year.
Mm-hmm.
Got hurt, sat out, and now he's not going to play at all this year. If you're Kevin Durant, you're like, dude, what did I come here for?
Exactly.
Why didn't I just stick with the Warriors and keep winning chips?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's a very interesting situation with the Kyrie thing that is wholly different than the Ben Simmons thing is.
Yeah, and one more thing on the Kyrie thing. It doesn't look like it's going to get resolved anytime soon.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, where your point in that the Nets are worse than the 76ers lie. And I disagree on that. I think the 76ers are worse. But that being said, the 76ers at least have an out.
Yeah.
It's just whether they're smart enough to take it.
It's whether they take that
emergency
or
maybe not smart enough, but not as stubborn as I think they are.
It's almost like desperate enough.
And that is where I think they're wrong. I think they're too damn stubborn. The 76ers. Yes. Pull trigger and trade the man. He doesn't want to be there. And again, for those who don't know, Ben Simmons fell apart in 6 games of the playoffs last year. We talked about it at length on this podcast. He's been roasted by the media. He's been roasted by his team. He's been roasted by the fans for it. He says, I'm out. I don't want to play for the 76ers anymore. The 76ers says, okay, well, you don't have a good enough trade value, so we can't trade you yet. He says, it's not my job. Trade me. They say, well, we're not going to trade you, and if you don't show up, we're going to fine you. In fact, we're going to put the money that you're supposed to be getting into a fund, and we're just going to keep taking money out of that fund until you show up. So Ben Simmons like, fine, I'll show up, but I'm not happy about it, and I'm not going to try. And so the 76ers are like, well, if you're not going to try, then we're going to suspend you. And so that's where we're at now. So it's a big game of whose dick's bigger, and neither side is wanting to budge, and both look rather foolish.
It's one of the biggest public stalemates we've seen in recent sports history. Like, we are watching Ben Simmons, from what I have seen and read, his biggest issue is that he thinks that he should be the number one guy on a team. He wants to be treated like Giannis. I'm not saying he's Giannis, but that's how he believes he should be treated. He has not felt that with the Philadelphia 76ers, despite the fact that they've been very close to a championship. They went to the conference finals game 7 against the Toronto Raptors, and a Kawhi Leonard bouncing 3 is what put them into the finals over the Sixers. They've been very close. They've been a really good basketball team, but that's not good enough for him. He would rather be the number one option. That is more important to him. And that's why he's saying, I don't want to go to teams like Portland. I don't want to go to necessarily teams like the Warriors. Like I want to be on a team where I am the guy, and that is like kind of a mental block that he's hitting. And the Sixers just need to take whatever they can get for him at this point because his value has never been lower and probably never will be lower.
And this is where the Sixers are kicking themselves because they said no to a James Harden for Ben Simmons swap.
Mm-hmm.
Plus a little extra from, whatever to make stuff work. But they said no to a James Harden for Ben Simmons swap. And now they are lucky to get a starter for him at this point. So that's probably the worst thing about this. If you're a 76ers fan, is you're sitting there like, man, what could have been? But now you're sitting here and you're like, just get the guy off the team. And they're like, well, the 76ers are like, no, we're going to wait for what we think his value is. And that's never going to come.
No.
His value is not getting better because he's not playing a game for the 76ers. And if he is, do you really want him out on the court? Because if you've seen the videos of him practicing, there's videos out there. All the players are wearing their jerseys, their uniforms, whatever. He's wearing sweatpants and is practicing literally with his phone in his pocket.
That's an energy.
He is running around
real
in
energy
sweatpants and a hoodie with his phone in his pocket and is like checking his phone in between drills. That is just, first off, not okay for any professional athlete to do, any professional person to do.
But yeah, they would yell at us if we were on our phones in the middle of a broadcast.
Yeah,
So
that's where it's at here. And so that's why they suspended him. But it's also like, if he didn't ask to be here, you guys made him show up by, threatening to hold his money. So he showed up and now he's there and he's just biding his time until eventually you trade him. So I think Ben Simmons kind of has all the leverage here because, he's either going to sit there, show up and collect a paycheck and get kicked out of every game.
Yeah.
Which it seems like he's more than happy to do.
Yeah.
Or he's going to get traded.
And the trade has to happen at some point. It feels crazy that we are 1 year removed from having the conversation of, is Ben Simmons the best young piece that you can add to a core? Like we were having discussions like, would you rather have Ben Simmons or Jason Tatum? Like, would you rather have Ben Simmons or Luka? Would you rather have Ben Simmons or De'Aaron Fox? Like, I think that Ben Simmons is really, really low on all those things beneath so many more people now because he's turned into a bit of a nutcase. His talent is immense. He could be as good as anybody in the NBA, but he seems to have a mental block.
It's a little bit almost of like a God complex
almost,
where it's like, yeah, I'm amazing. I should be able to get whatever I want, whenever I can have it.
Yeah.
And when he's not, getting that in terms of this trade, he's pouting. And that's exactly what you're seeing. He's acting very childish. He's acting very, immature. And he's being encouraged that by his agent and the people around him. And so you're stuck with this, like, who wants this guy? There's teams out there that are like, I don't want to add him to my core. Imagine that guy in our locker room. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah. He's not a leader.
Hell no.
He's certainly not a leader, but he wants to be the best player on the team. So how is he going to not be a leader, but then also be the best player on your team? He's a bit of an enigma. It's going to be really interesting to see how this entire thing plays out because he's definitely not going to be a contributing factor to the Philadelphia 76ers. Where does he go? Who does he go for? When does Daryl Morey finally, say uncle and give up? This is a very fascinating thing that's going on in the NBA, and I have no idea when it's going to end.
Yeah, neither do I, and neither does anybody. And all we can say is that we will keep you up to date as much as we can on the Team Morale podcast. A little bit of a different podcast today. We've been, doing more of our games and more of our fun little, tidbits here and there. This was a little bit more of an informational podcast. So let us know if you like this type of stuff. We went back to our roots a little bit. This was like how we began the podcast, a little bit more informational based as opposed to, more funs and games. So we'll be back with those games. Don't you guys worry your pretty little heads about it. We will be back, but you know what is back?
NBA basketball.
NBA basketball. And we cannot wait to jump into this season. I cannot wait for my Mavs to play. I know you cannot wait for your Blazers to play. And I know all you NBA fans can't wait for your teams to take the court and suit up and really just get into this season, get into the nuts and bolts, and we'll see who the contenders and the players really are this year.
Oh, I could not be more excited. The time has come, E. It is our time to shine now. Love the NBA.
All right. Cheers, brother.
Cheers, man.